You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day. Oh, yeah.
Welcome back to the Bro Down Podcast, everybody. I'm Andy Smith.
And I'm Tim Fulton.
And this is Fight Fan Weekly.
Fight Fan Weekly.
So, got some stuff for you to talk about here.
First up, we're going to be talking about Colby Covington's alleged alter ego.
Okay, so you know what the bid on this is?
Yeah, so he's been playing like the hard-ass bad guy, basically, and it turns out that none of it is actually true.
The heart of gold. No, but you know the backstory to it?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm under the impression that he was mildly popular as a UFC fighter, mildly being strong. He was probably going to be cut, and then he started talking shit like crazy as a opportunity to promote himself, which worked, and that's about all I know.
So, the story as it is told from my point of view, or from what I've seen, is that Colby was fighting Damian Maia in Brazil, and he got wind through his manager, I believe, that the UFC was going to cut him because they didn't think he was marketable because he just didn't have any fans really. Like nobody knew who he was, but he's really good. He's top 5 guy or top 10 guy, and he found out. So he was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to talk incredible amounts of shit. And after he won, I think he called all Brazilians filthy animals.
Ooh.
And just started going hard in the paint. So
that is an intense first step. There is no going back to
yeah.
that.
Well, from my perspective, how I looked at it was this guy dedicated his whole life to this sport. He got to the top, and he's trying to be like a normal guy, and they're like, yeah, we know you're really good. We know you beat everyone, but you're fired.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, fuck. What do I have to lose at this point? So he just went for what he thought was the best move. And now that he's one of the most popular guys in the UFC, they were asking him, and he basically said his version of what he said is that it's not that I'm making up a fake personality. It's my personality, but I just turn it up to 11.
Okay.
So he's saying, like, whereas beforehand, I wouldn't, if somebody asked my opinion on something, I wouldn't give him my honest opinion because I was afraid of what the fans would say or what the UFC would think of me or what I would be looked at like a jerk or whatever. And now he's saying there's no filter. I'm just saying exactly what's on my mind. It doesn't run through anything.
Okay.
So I thought it was interesting that he decided to say that a week before the fight.
Yeah.
Because he'd been saying he never really came out and pulled the curtain back on this before. And we've heard rumors that a lot of people have said he's like the nicest guy behind camera. But I'm just interested to see what you think about that entire situation.
I'm very conflicted as to what the end game is here. Because if you think about it, this is a guy who for the past... when was that? Do you remember?
A couple of years ago.
A couple of years ago? All right. So for the past couple of years, he's been playing basically mind games with everyone for the sake of his career successfully, if all this is to be true.
Mm-hmm. It seems that way.
Seems that way. Why now? Is he so confident that he no longer needs that personality to continue to be successful, which may be true? So maybe this is his way of shedding that concept of himself. That's what I'm thinking, because why now? Why would he suddenly let that go? Especially this is probably one of his biggest fights.
It is his biggest fight.
Yeah.
It's his biggest fight today. But if I had to guess, because remember I said, it was come out a couple times that this might be the case.
Yeah.
I think that's been coming up more and more. Because like Rogan has talked about it, Brendan Schaub has talked about it, how like this kid is not like this in real life. Yeah. He's really a nice guy. And it's like, how many times can you say like, no, I'm really mean, before you're just like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like there's some merit to it. And it's almost like it's becoming too much for me to have to answer these. So I'll give you a bone. I'll say that, yes, I'm not really like this all the time, but I'm not faking it. I'm just turning my personality up.
Okay.
Because I'm an entertainer. So he's not saying, hey, I'm fucking Bob Hope over here. Like, he's saying that.
What does Bob Hope sound like?
Yeah, he's saying basically that nobody's gonna know who Bob Hope is that watches this. He's saying basically, I'm not putting on an act, but I am putting on an act.
Yeah, so he's not doubling down, but he's not denying it.
Yeah,
It's almost like a comfortable middle ground where he's like, this is me, just an exaggerated.
and he
version.
also told the truth. He said, before the Damian Maia fight, I was gonna get cut, so
Yeah.
I just said fuck everybody.
Yeah.
Which is kind of true. And at the same time, he gets to take a little bit of that pressure off of him of trying to keep this charade up, where I think that might be his way of getting people to stop asking him about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, they're going to ask him leading up right now, like, what was it, all that. But I think after that, it's going to kind of be like, all right, this is Colby's deal. He likes to chalk things up for the fight. He's really not a dick, but he comes off as a dick.
Yeah.
Usman was saying that he was doing it because, and again, talking shit, that he's trying to take pressure off of himself so people feel bad for him if he loses.
I don't think he has that worry.
No, I don't think so either.
No.
I don't think so either.
Not that I think I'm 100% confident he's going to win, but I don't think he has that fear of if I lose, people are going to.
No, because people already hate him.
Oh, people already hate him. So
And
what's the difference?
And he's not, in most people's eyes, I'd say most people want Colby to lose. So he has, I think, less pressure. When you're not supposed to win or when nobody wants you to win, you have less pressure.
Yeah.
For the most part. But if everyone wants you to win and you feel like if you lose, you're letting people down,
Oh, God.
that's more pressure.
High school flashbacks.
Yeah. And then imagine that the guy that you're going to wrestle, going up to say high school, has talked so much shit to a off the charts level. And you're like, what if I lose? He talked this much shit before we even had our match. What if I lose? What if I lose embarrassingly?
Yeah.
What if I get knocked out? If I get choked out?
Ooh, you know what's interesting? This is going to air. We are recording this Saturday afternoon before the fights. This is going to air after Colby either wins or loses.
It's true.
I'm going to be very interested to see what the following week is going to be like.
Yeah.
So if we're not bringing up any of that stuff, that's because this is pre-recorded and we haven't seen it yet.
So your final thoughts on this. For the haters, I just want you to answer a question for people that don't like and for also people that do like Colby Covington.
Okay.
If you are his conscience or his life coach or whatever, do you give him the advice to do this, or do you think it's a good idea that he did this? No, I'm saying from the Damian Maia fight to now.
I think the strategy worked. From purely a business sense, it was fucking genius. Morally speaking, I have some qualms against looking at everyone in Mexico and say you're a bunch of filthy
Brazil,
sorry, excuse me.
It's nice that you think that about Mexicans, though. That's real good.
Great, we're gonna go downhill real fast. I don't think you can look at a bunch of Brazilians and say I think you're a bunch of filthy animals or filthy dogs, whatever you said, for the sake of your own career. I get why he did it. I understand it was probably necessary and successful, but there are moral objections to it. I don't think I'd be able to do it. I'd put it that way.
When you remember we were talking about before about going all in.
Yeah.
Where if you go in halfway, it's almost worse sometimes.
Yeah.
Doing that to me is pretty clear when you look back at it in hindsight that it's clearly not meant to be like, this is how I really feel. It's meant to be like a ha ha ha.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So when it's the intent, right? The intent is what matters to most people in hindsight. In the moment, it doesn't matter to a lot of people. It's not the intent, it's what's going on.
I
But
agree.
in hindsight, a lot of times you look back, it's the intent.
It's the intent, yeah.
The intent was not to actually say, this is how I feel about Brazilians. The intent was, everyone look at me. I'm here. I'm trying to piss you off.
Yeah.
So
which worked.
yeah. So yeah, I would.
It's going to be interesting
Yeah.
to see what happens after this weekend.
Yikes.
Jose Aldo's weight cut. I have not heard anything about this, so enlighten me, sir.
Yikes. Okay, so Jose Aldo would have some problems getting down to 145 sometimes. He'd always look really sunken in.
You know what? I think I have heard about this. Didn't he weigh, or he was talking about his weight earlier in the week, and it was like way high?
Yeah, it's just do me a favor. Google Jose Aldo weight cut.
I am doing so.
Just hit images.
Okay.
Now go to most recent ones.
And how do
Just go to tools. This is great for the podcast. Go to time and type past 24 hours.
Okay.
Okay, so just click on the image of him to the left. One more. Okay. That's 245. He doesn't look terrible. Oh wait. No. This is the weigh-ins. This isn't no. You gotta go to like the actual weigh-ins.
I don't know what that means.
So they do weigh-ins in the morning.
Yeah.
And then for these, everyone comes out now. It's an event.
Yeah.
They just step on the scale and they read off what their weight was.
So the weigh-ins.
So he's hydrated here, clearly.
So the weigh-ins are actually at this point like a complete
Done.
show.
Yeah,
It's not
yes.
the real.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
It is and it isn't, because if the guy misses weight in the morning, he can come here and make weight.
Okay. So this is almost like a second opportunity.
Yes.
Okay.
In a way, yeah. Scroll down. Oh, wait, scroll up. One more. That one right there. No. There's images of him at the actual weigh-ins where he looks like a dead body. Like he's completely sunken in. He's had this in the past, cutting down to 145. This fight is at 135.
Ooh.
So it's 10 more pounds. And
Yeah.
when you 10 pounds for a guy that's 265, okay, 10 pounds for the guy that weighs 145, that's a lot of weight.
That's a lot of weight. That's a lot.
Especially when you used to have trouble making 145.
Yeah.
So part of the reason I bring that up is because most fighters naturally move up in weight class as they get older.
Yeah.
Now, it's not say that the rule can't be different for some fighters, but most guys end up carrying more natural weight when they're older.
Yeah.
Whether it from just muscle growth and whatnot to carrying extra pounds. Now, when you're fighting 145, there's not really a whole bunch of extra pounds to be carried. Since he's taken some damage in his recent past couple outings, he's been taking more shots to the head, I should say.
Okay.
So when you weight cut a lot, a lot of people speculate that that's what causes more brain trauma and ultimately, especially in boxing, people dying because the weight cuts are so extreme that your body is dehydrated and your brain cannot take damage the same way. So, and a lot of times when guys have horrible weight cuts and they get knocked out, they kind of blame it on the weight cut, whether that's for whatever, you make your mind up about what that means, whether they're making excuses or there's some validity to it.
I can see validity to it, but case by case scenario. Yeah.
So he's fighting Marlon Moraes, who fights at 135. He's coming down to 135, and he looked like he was on death's door this whole week.
Yeah.
He looks good there. Looks like he's hydrated, but your body can only rehydrate so fast.
Yeah.
So he should have I think it would probably be like 36 hours of rehydrating by the time the fight comes. But you got to think doing damage to your body.
Yeah, and it's not just doing damage to it's not just in that moment. You have to think that your entire training camp, not your entire training camp, but the weeks leading up to this fight, you have to be worrying about your weight. If he's walking around at 165, I don't know what his normal walking weight is, but if it's 165 and he's cutting 30 pounds, that means within the last month, 2 months, he has to worry about cutting that weight. That means he's not training as much as he should be able to. He's not, I don't know anything about what these guys go through to really prep for a fight, but if they're trying to do strength training, he's not going to be able to do that as efficiently as he would be able to
if he's cutting weight all camp.
Or heavily within the past several weeks.
Yeah, well, the way that UFC or MMA fight camps go, especially for the top tier guys, the last like 2 weeks, you're not really doing much in the gym.
Okay.
So the last 2 weeks is basically dedicated to cutting weight. So you're cutting weight, you're moving around a little bit in the gym, you're doing some pad work, you're just keeping everything loose.
Yeah.
You're not doing any sparring. Most guys anyway. You're not doing anything strenuous because you want your body to heal, but you want to keep it active.
Yeah.
So you're doing very light stuff, mostly to do with weight cutting. I think that there was rumors, I forget what the numbers are, but it was like, I think you're like 23 pounds overweight like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I was just about to say that I read a story of that he was like really heavy.
That's not far off on the number though,
No,
right?
no,
It's
no,
around
like
that.
It was obscenely heavy for what he should have been.
So which means that the way that he plays it is, I'm going to train all fight camp. I'm going to just stay at a weight for all fight camp, and the last 2 weeks or whatever, I'm going to lose all this weight.
Which there's a lot of problems with that. I mean, you don't know how your body. Is this the first time he's fighting at 135?
It is, but he's been cutting weight, significant weight, I think, for his whole career to 145.
Still, an extra 10, that's a lot of weight.
know.
You don't know how your body's going to handle that kind of weight loss. You don't know where the weight's going to come off.
It might not come off.
You don't know if it's going to come off, and all of a sudden, your entire game plan can change. If you've never fought at 135, you don't know how strong your strikes are. You don't know how strong you are at 135. A lot of people think that when you cut weight, you're going to have a natural strength advantage against someone who is naturally 135, because a lot of the weight you cut is going to be a mix of water or fat, and you're going to retain a lot of that muscle.
Yeah.
But what people fail to consider is you're damaging your body. You're tiring yourself. My brother was horrendous horrendous at this when he was a wrestler. I think he used to wrestle 160. I think it was 160 his senior year. And he was having serious trouble because he was constantly tired. He was gassing out nonstop.
Yeah.
But the mentality is, go down in weight. You'll be stronger. Then
It's also how you cut the weight, too.
It is.
And high school is not the best example for how
High
to
school's
cut
not.
weight.
And one of the problems with wrestling is that it's constant. You're 160, but you're 160 for the full time. So your body is constantly dehydrated. But anyway, long story short, he went up to 170. He started doing significantly better because yet he was still strong for the weight class. But now his body was like happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
there's
a difference. Sorry.
No. You have to find that right medium.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, and from what I understand, it's a very Western thing. Guys on the Eastern Bloc don't do the weight cutting like we do, but there is a point of diminishing return when you're cutting too much weight. And I think that when he doesn't have a lot of body fat or water retention to begin with from the looks of it, because he's always in incredible shape.
Yeah.
So where's the weight coming from? Like, where is he draining the rest of this water from?
I mean, we do carry a lot of water weight, but not.
He gets down. He weighed 136.
I know.
He did make the weight, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But
that's a lot of weight.
Yeah, I think weight cutting is one of the ugliest parts of this sport that they need to start figuring out how to kind of move down the line and get rid of it.
Yeah, I would. I have mixed feelings on that, but when you see an extreme example like this,
Well, you got to save athletes from themselves sometimes, and
you do.
also
You do.
if I weigh 185 and you weigh 145, and somehow my body's able to just cut 40 pounds in 2 weeks, and I fight you, is that really 145 versus 145?
No, but at the same time, it's someone who is healthy versus someone who is drained.
Maybe. But
40 pounds is a lot of weight.
But I'm saying there's guys that have wrestled their whole lives that know how to cut weight. They can do it efficiently. They've done it at the Olympic level.
Yeah, I know, but see, I have strong mixed emotions about this. Like super strong mixed emotions about this. I think 40 pounds is obscene. I think 30 pounds is obscene.
Well, some guys have done the 40 pounds, but I'm just saying that if we're talking about a fight at 170, it should be two guys that weigh relatively around 170.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be one guy that weighs 175, cuts 5 pounds, and a guy that weighs 205 and cuts 35 pounds.
Yeah, I see your point.
So, on to the next.
All right, we're going to start talking about this upcoming weekend, which is
Fight Forecast.
Fight Forecast. Oh, shit.
This one's gonna be a quick one.
Yeah, UFC Fight Night, somewhere in South Korea. I'm not sure exactly where. The fight is at like 5 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, we might not be. We might watch. Probably will watch.
We're gonna watch.
Yeah, we'll be up.
Just
I
gonna.
don't know how awake we'll be, but
Yeah,
we'll be up.
just be a sleeping one. All right, so
So we have Doo Ho Choi versus Charles Jourdain. I believe this is Jourdain's first fight in the UFC.
that's what the UFC would lead us to believe.
Yeah, and Doo Ho Choi, I believe, has been out for 2 years. Is this the guy that's been out for 2 years?
That's what the UFC website has said. They're not always the most accurate in the world, and I doubt it, but maybe there's a chance he was fighting for another organization in the meanwhile. But it looks like his last fight in the UFC was January of 18.
But considering Doo Ho Choi's had some stiff competition in some of his fights in the UFC, and I believe this is Jourdain's first appearance in the UFC. I could be mistaken. I'm pretty sure. I'm going with Doo Ho.
Ooh.
Even though he hasn't fought in a while.
You know what? We never agree on things, but I'm going to go with you on this one. He has home team advantage. I think this is a tough first UFC bout for Jourdain.
Yeah, and yeah, he's also had the octagon jitters aren't there for Doo Ho, even though he's been out for 2 years. But a lot of guys get that, like, fuck, this is the big stage now.
Yeah. There's a lot going against him.
Yeah. And if I haven't heard of him, it means he's not like the super, like, I don't know a lot of like the up and coming guys, but he ain't a superstar if I haven't heard of him. So not like Conor McGregor coming over. Okay. Volkan Ozdemir versus Alexander Rakic. Rakic just knocked out Jimmy Manoa. Volkan, I believe he knocked out Jimmy too. But Volkan has fought for a title. Volkan's been in there with some dangerous guys. So has Alexander. But I think Volkan's faced the stiffer competition. I think he's been in more big shows, which is going to make him more relaxed. And he also still seems hungry.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Volkan on this one because he hits like a fucking brick shit house. Like he knocks dudes dead.
I wish I knew more about these guys. I wish I read up on it at least a little bit more.
It's hard to tell. You got to have to go back and watch fights on these guys because it's not like. But Volkan hits. If Volkan hits you and connects with you, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, Alexander showed power against Jimmy Manoa, but Jimmy was in a lot of wars. I believe he retired after that fight.
I'm going to stay out of this one. I just don't know enough about the two fighters or their styles to make a.
Yeah, I'll put it on Volkan.
Opinion.
Yeah, I'll put it on Volkan, even though every time I see him in there, for something in me tells me that I'm like, this guy doesn't look like he's going to do good.
Yeah.
And then he does. It's just, I don't know what it is, whether it's his body frame or what.
Some guys just have that awkward style that makes you be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, you're winning.
And then we have the American Zombie versus the Korean Zombie. Okay. Two guys who
The Walking Dead.
You can think that they're out of the fight 1,000 times, and they just get up and keep coming at you.
So what you're telling us is that we're in for a little bit of a war.
Yes, and we're on Chang Sung Young's turf.
We are.
We are. Frankie is out of New Jersey. So I don't know who the hell's going to win this. Frankie is always game. Korean Zombie is always game. This is like, I'm trying to think of what it's like. It's like putting
It's like a UFC fight is what it's like.
Yeah, like Frankenstein versus Frankenstein.
Okay.
Except one of them is in Korean and the other one's in English.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
It's just, I don't know what the hell's going to happen here. I'm going to say Frankie's going to win just because I don't think Frankie's been in he's had so many title fights and so many like headliners and whatnot that he's just, I think the level of competition that he is used to fighting is just so fucking high.
Yeah.
That he has that ingrained in him of like the level that he's at. And not to say that Korean Zombie doesn't have the skills possessed to beat Frankie Edgar, but I just think all that experience from going against those top level guys, all those title fights and 5 rounders, it's gonna give Frankie an edge in this one.
All right, I'm gonna go with the Korean Zombie on this. If we're so conflicted on who's gonna win and why,
Yeah,
home field advantage does have a significant advantage.
Yeah, it does.
For lack of better words. And it's so far away. You never know. I mean, a lot of guys go out way ahead of time. I don't know how long Frankie's going to be out in South Korea before the actual fight starts.
Yeah.
But that shit matters. Who knows if he's still...
But we also don't know. I forget if Korean Zombie trains in Korea. I don't know.
That's a good point.
I don't know if he does. That's a big misconception that a lot of people don't think about.
Yeah,
that
you're right.
Just because for somebody's from somewhere doesn't mean they necessarily live and train there.
That's true.
A lot of guys train in America because that's where most of the major gyms are. So, I'm sure being used to being over there, how things work, everything, it's all stresses that Korean Zombie doesn't have to worry about.
Yeah.
That's so, true. All right.
Why don't you talk us out this bitch?
Okay, so let us know who you think's going to win on the South Korea card. And for all your Bro Down Pro gear, go to brodownpro.com. And please like and subscribe to the podcast. It really helps us out.
That was very good, Andy.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys next time.
You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day.